adult basic ed programs are below 8th grade level. And we take them no matter what level they are. We do assess them first. But the important thing is many of the ESL students in particular have no schooling whatsoever in their home country before they come to our country. There are students that have failed to benefit from the secondary education that they did receive or partially receive. It bridges language barriers, serves non-English. We have a huge career technical education program in Sac City that are all short-term short-term training for above poverty level jobs. I think that the strengths support the role that the adult ed program is specifically designed for. It is very flexible. We start classes whenever there's a need. Well, not so much anymore with this flexibility, but we used to be able to start courses whenever there was a need. We get a phone call from a principal that says, we have, I have 5 parents here that want their GED. We'll go in and start a class in GED as soon as you can get a teacher hired. We're a little bit restricted now because the district is having to use its money to solve its budget problems, or use some of our money, but we're still up and running. The services are very accessible to all of the students, and I think that's a very strong point. From the point not just being in the K-12 schools, we're in apartment complexes, we're in community centers, we're in churches, so we sort of go wherever there is a need. It's a voluntary, demand-driven system that must produce results, because if the results aren't produced, the students don't come. Our core mission is to teach students basic skills and get them ready for post-secondary. The mission of the K-12 student program is to teach students how to read, write, do math. Basically, we do it with the adults. Many of the students enrolled in the adult education programs are parents of our K-12 students, as Joanne referred to. But increasing their skills makes them a much better parent. And we had data when we still had CBET funding where the children of the parents enrolled in the ESL classes that we were offering did better in all of their standardized tests than the children of parents that were not enrolled in the program, in the ESL. Many students are being prepared for post-secondary education. Last Friday I attended the graduation at Fremont School for Adults, and of the 25 students who received their high school diploma, 4 were going into the service, and all of the others were either going to our career tech program or to community college. So I think...
Question?
Mm-hmm.
The ones that were going to community college, were they at college level ability?
Oh, yeah, because we post-test. Mm-hmm. Accountability is embedded in the K-12 system. All students are assessed prior to enrollment and reassessed after every 100 hours of instruction. Hour by hour attendance is kept on each student, and finally we contact all our completers 6 months after they have completed to find out what they're doing, or we try to. I mean, we phone, we email, we mail letters, we get some letters back and phones disconnected, but I mean, we make an attempt to contact every student to find out if they have gotten a job, retained their job, gone on to school, or whatever. And thank you. I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your attending. The next speaker card is from Ernest Kettenring. Mr. Kettenring. Welcome.
I'm the chair of Adult Education and Career Education for United Teachers Los Angeles. We run the largest adult ed program in Los Angeles Unified, about 25% of the state budget. I'm also have 15 years experience in non-credit teaching at Glendale and Pasadena College. I currently am an adjunct professor of history in the credit program at East LA College. And I'm the legislative representative for California Teachers Association, Adult Ed Caucus, and legislative representative for the Adult Education Commission for the California Federation of Teachers. And as often the case when I come to hearings on education policy,
he had a big, long resume on here. I didn't read the whole thing.
It appears I'm the only teacher in the room.
No, there are others.
Are there? Okay.
I think what's coming up after.
Addressing one of your concerns, teaching in both college and adult education, my students in both places look very much the same. I know you asked a question about that earlier. Flexibility that came down 3 years ago has been devastating to adult education. It's dismantled our programs. And as Mr. Mitchell pointed out, I think this is a time of opportunity for restructuring. And I think that we need to seize that opportunity. Whatever direction we go, something needs to be done. Adult education in the K-12 systems, I think, has the best developed language acquisition programs and the best developed basic skills programs, basically, throughout the state. They have many more of them. On the other hand, the community colleges have the best structure for career tech ed certificate programs. And the problem is that these two entities aren't working together. Episodically, in some places they do, but it's not systemic. In Los Angeles, they're not working together. It's very frustrating for us. It's very frustrating for me to have students in adult education, and then we put them on a bridge to nowhere and hope that maybe they can find their way into a community college program. We need to do something about these two unarticulated, uncoordinated programs that the state is spending money on. There are bureaucratic impediments to that, to this lack of coordination. Everybody has a vested interest in the status quo at some level, and I think at the local level, people are not going to get beyond that. I know in Los Angeles, where I work, those people do not work with the community college people because they don't see it in their best interest to do so, and they're not going to do so unless someone comes along and changes the structure and makes them do that. There's been references to the strategic plan from the Department of Education. That, too, is in some ways a justification for the status quo and to maintain the current structure, and was not very innovative in looking at alternative governance structures that we could look at here in the state. My own opinion, and many of my colleagues disagree, at the end of the day, people who look like me do not belong in a K-12 children's school system. Throughout the state, I've been watching over the last couple of years, a number of school districts have shut down their adult ed programs. Boards of education consistently have said, we like what you do, it's a valuable service, but you're not part of our core mission, and we just can't afford to be funding a program that we don't get funding from the state for when you're not our core mission. And I think this is a problem that needs to be addressed, that people who are 6 feet tall in a K-12 school system, it's a discontinuity that's not being addressed. We have these two uncoordinated systems. They each have their relative strengths. It's been my observation that, again, largely I work in the Los Angeles college system. Their non-credit program is not meeting the needs of the population. I work over in the adult ed system. It's meeting the basic skills needs, but our career tech ed programs are inadequate to the needs of this very large population. We have 400,000 students just in Los Angeles adult education. And so what we're looking for, what I'm looking for, is addressing the governance structure at some level. We're not going to have the seamless pathway for our students that moves them from language acquisition through basic skills to career tech ed and moves them into meaningful employment, workforce development, which is what this state needs, as long as we have two systems that are uncoordinated and aren't working together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's well spoken.
I've got a question for either for you or for anybody else who can answer it. Is adult ed in K-12 in the community colleges funded out of Prop 98?
Yes, they both come under the Prop 98.
Okay.
that system.
There's this disparity in the way they're treated, though, whether it comes in the high school or whether it comes in K-12 or through the community college door.
Prior to flexibility, there was a dedicated funding stream for adult education that was formula-driven. My understanding, I'm not as familiar with the funding for the community colleges. My understanding was that they were funded at a certain level, and they could decide at the local community college how much of that got diverted into the non-credit program, which has a lower reimbursement rate, and how much of it went into the credit program, which has a higher reimbursement rate.
Any questions? Thank you for coming and being with us today. My final card to testify speak to us is from Jeff Dauscher. Jeff?
Good afternoon,
Welcome.
Commissioners.
Thank
you
you
for
for
letting
sitting
me have
through
the
our
last
hearing
word.
today.
I know what it's like to stand here between you and lunch. I
I thought we've been pretty good so far.
I'm a classroom teacher from Palm Springs area, and I'm also, as you know, a liaison to the Commission from the California Teachers Association. It's been nice to spend the last 3 years with you on a monthly basis. I just wanted to follow up on several questions and comments made about students coming to the community college programs in a condition described as many as 2 to 5 levels below grade 13. I think you also have to be careful to not jump to the assumption that that's whole grade levels, that they may be a level or 2 or as many as 5 levels below in a subject area. Maybe it's reading, not necessarily every subject that's taught in an entire grade. I can't speak for everybody else, but I can speak for myself. When I was in high school, my primary focus was college preparation, and I knew early in high school, if not in middle school, that a high school diploma meant exactly that, college ready. Today, students in California are the most tested generation of students to ever complete school. In fact, I recommend to my young students that they include test-taking skills on their resumes. This is just a short list. My students take CELT tests for English proficiency, pre-tests, content standards tests, benchmark tests, post-tests, high school exit exam pre-tests for remediation if that's necessary, the actual high school exit exam, and the California State Standardized Tests. These tests are all multiple choice or bubble tests. CST tests begin in 3rd grade, and there has been a move in the legislature to move this up to 2nd grade. There is dramatically lower buy-in on CST tests because students do not see the relationship with what they're learning in class. CST tests are not currently tied to their class grades at all. I'm not advocating eliminating CSTs or the high school exit exam. Instead, these measures need to be relevant to what students are actually learning in school. Additionally, there's been a strong movement toward tying teacher pay to student performance on the high school exit exam and CSTs. This concept of performance pay pits teachers against each other and sets up a system where students are no longer anything other than a test score. I want to develop my students' critical thinking skills, creativity, and imagination, not judge them on their first day of class as a test score to determine the level of my lifestyle outside of school. Finally, there is no longer, there is no longer a single focus on preparing students for college. Today, the balance has shifted to test scores, program improvement schools and districts, safe harbor, and persistently low-performing schools. If we are lucky, there's an equal balance between college preparation and test scores. All levels of education in California must continue to deal with the fallout of this until this testing mania plays out and until we return to the true purpose of education in the first place. Thank you for your time and listening today.
Thanks, Jeff.
I think that was a completely phony argument. I mean, I think it was sincerely held by you, and I don't question that. But testing goes to the core of what we're trying to do in education, which is to understand if what we're doing is penetrating. We have a whole set of standards that the State Board of Education has adopted. How will we know if the students are meeting those standards if we don't test them? I mean, that's just it's just this whole reaction to testing and accountability is, I think, wholly misplaced and is distracting to trying to get the job done. I mean, we did a report. A study, maybe you were here, We did a study a couple years ago. No, it was the one before that. It must have been in 2006. Anyway, where we took a close look, we took a close look at this, and I just think that I just want to take the opportunity, since you raised it, and it didn't really notice the connection with adult ed, but since you raised it, to say that that we should be standing up for the accountability system and standing up for the testing and standing up for the standards, and that whole feedback loop to understand if we're getting the job done.
Commissioner, I understand your comments, and I appreciate them. I would not waste your time with a phony argument. I'm not saying get rid of all testing. I'm an advocate for stop periodically, set up some kind of system that taps in and measures what did you learn, where are you supposed to be. You're there, great, continue. You're advanced, okay, maybe you should continue on a different speed. You're not there, why are you not there, how do we get you there? One system of multiple choice tests to test every single learner does not work. And then to tie that to teacher pay does not work. Not when my students are smart enough to know, Mr. Dauscher does not deserve to live in Palm Springs. I think he should live here. So the letter of the day is C. I obviously don't want that kind of test taking going on in my classroom. Okay? I'm an advocate of testing to find out where the students are at, where they need to be. But we need to use multiple measures. If our students have learning styles that are as varied as they are, why do we use one and only one type of test to measure their success or not?
Can I?
Sure.
Since he and I have talked before, so I know, let me see if I can restate where you were coming. Leaving aside whether a teacher's pay should be connected to testing or some sort of accountability, but adding I think what he was trying to say is we are now educating students on how to take a test and pass a test, as opposed to educating them on learning the subject matter, so that by the time they graduate, all they've learned to do is take a test, as opposed to the basic skills that puts them 5 levels down.
And as a result,
I'm saying that's what I think he is saying.
As a result, and I agree with that, yes. As a result, the group of students I see in the high school I teach that do not test are at the senior level. They're done with CSTs, they've taken the high school exit exam, or they only have one more opportunity of 8 opportunities to pass it. Now they're ready to begin looking at college. And you have said over and over, you've got to move back to middle school to tell these students, you're ready to go on, have a great time, or you're not ready to go. I agree with you. We should not wait until get into community college to say, you're not ready for college. Because they're already in a building that's labeled a college. So they're already getting a mixed message. But when there is so much focus on classrooms, schools, and districts making test scores, it is at the expense of what I believe is the true mission of schools, which is to prepare them for the next level, which in the case is college. And if I'd had more time, I might have said that better. But that is my point. There used to be one sole mission, which was to prepare them for college. Now, if we're lucky, there's a balance between the two. Prepare them for college, but please pass all these tests on the way there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to ask a question, but I would just say that,
No, don't. You're out of order. So with that, we'll adjourn the public hearing. We're going to reconvene across the street at 925 L Street for lunch on our business meeting as soon as we get there. Thank you all very much for coming today. It was a good hearing.